Okay, let me get comfortable. I don't know what to do with my hands, and I don't know what to do with my legs. I feel fucking weird. I need a sip of water. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the After Dark podcast. As you can see, I don't have my other half, my yin to my yang, um, my co host, Paige. Unfortunately, is she fell into a hole and we haven't been able to find her since. Just kidding. She's out of town and she's just been really busy this week. So I said, I'll step up. I'm doing this solo. So it's just you and I. Um, you and I, us together. You and me, we are going to do this. And this is going to be a great podcast. I asked you guys what we wanted to talk about, and we got two topics for today. Both of you guys voted the same amount of votes for each one. So we're going to be talking about sobriety, addiction, rehab, AA, couple other things that other people can relate to too as well. There's a lot of good stuff that addicts and normal people can all take in and relate from through this stuff, which is good. And then the second part of this episode, we will be talking about the creative process and all the things within that. So, without further ado, just me and you, let's do this. So, I kind of wanted this episode to be a little bit more calm. Obviously, we're going to have some laughs, but I wanted it to be a different vibe than what you usually get because we are one on one, and it's a lot different when you're with your friends. You're always goofy, or you're out of your head when you're with your friends. At least I am. And when you're alone, it's intimate. I have a lot to say when it comes to these subjects, and I want us to have that bond together, whether it's the couple people who watch this, and have that relationship. And I want you guys to know more about me, and that's cool. I don't know where I'm going with this. But we can begin with sobriety. Sobriety talk. Um So right now I'm about like 700 days clean from alcohol. I probably should have checked before this because there's a sobriety app for the people that don't know. There's a lot of apps for sobriety in general, which is helpful, and I'm glad they exist. I'm about 60 days clean from weed. Um, so some people would say that my sobriety I consider my sobriety date June 19th, 2020. And then I quit weed. But alcohol was my drug of choice, and weed was definitely like a second, but there's a lot of rules in AA, and I don't know. People care too much about the dates and stuff, but I'm laying that out. And I guess we can start with going back to 2020, and June 15 to 18, I guess. How I got there and the journey through that, I guess. I would just say I hit a lot of bottoms before I got sober. I wouldn't even say that that was my worst bottom. It definitely what led me to say I'm never drinking again was definitely like embarrassing, and I screamed my head off at some people that fired me for drinking before work. And but that was many hours later. So then I woke up that morning and I said, I'm never going to drink again. But I had no idea how to do that because I would say that a lot. I would wake up all the time and say, "Oh, I'm never going to drink again," because I'm so hungover and I'm so anxious, and I really wanted it to work this time. And as much as I was filled with fear and doubt, I was definitely hopeless. Like that decision like brought just a little light into my life. Thankfully, I had very supportive parents that understand addiction very well. It runs in both sides of my family, so you do the math, someone was going to get it, and I think that it was given to me because I could handle it the best. I think I have a lot of social ability and other gifts that were given that I could handle something like this. So anyways, from there, I drove home, and the next day I called my psychiatrist and said that I need to go to rehab. She was like, "All right, perfect. We'll get you in the next week." I also was going through I began the withdrawal period during that week, and it was hard. I was craving a lot of things, and alcohol. Alcohol was definitely the number one drug of choice during that time. I got because I didn't wanna face that it was alcohol being the problem. I cut out all substances before that. So, I had my fair share of other things, but at that point, it was only alcohol. And then I was like, "All right, well, that's the downfall." And there was no other things to blame it on besides alcohol at that point. Once I got there, it was definitely weird. Rehab's kinda weird. I, like, walked into a room and people were, like, sitting and kinda felt like a lecture hall, like a small lecture hall with all different kinds of people, and I went in very intimidated, very scared. I was probably very angry, and I spent 3 months there, every day showing up and speaking and talking and participating, and just trying to figure this out. I can't believe I did it for that long, but once I got out of rehab, I was 90 days sober. I I was 90 days sober. I, like, found sorry. I was 90 days sober. I found AA by then because I didn't really have a choice. Like, they were like, "If you wanna move down into, like, the PHP," which is partialized partial hospitalization program, and if they were like, "If you wanna move down, you need to go to meetings and you need to find a sponsor." So, honestly, at that point, I really didn't want anything to do with AA. I still sometimes don't, but I'm really glad that I found it because I finally was in a room besides rehab, because mine was like a multi-diagnosal program, so it didn't just have people that were sick from addiction. It had all disorders, eating disorders, mood disorders. So it was like the first time ever I was in a room with people that had the same exact struggles as I did. Like I could relate to every single story that was in that room. And I got sober with those ladies, and all of them were probably 40 and up, maybe a couple 30-year-olds in there, but it was definitely interesting. I don't know what it was, but I fully embraced it. I think is the hopelessness that I was like, I will do anything at this point. And from there, I started taking care of myself. And I think something that's important is when you are doing all the right things in like life, like when you are taking care of yourself and you're doing what you need to do. We all know what makes us happy and what makes us the best versions of ourselves. Like for me, it's right when I wake up, I pray. Um I probably should do a gratitude list, but I just am not there. Not there yet. Um, I exercise, I go to therapy, I go to my meetings, I talk to my parents, I am a good friend, I show up for others, I help others. And when I'm doing that, I feel on top of the world. But when I'm on the top of the world, I start to lack. I start to forget the things that got me there, and then I start to slack off. So, something that I feel like is important is to remember the things that are making you happier are the reason. So don't stop once you feel good. I feel like that's a really important thing. But at that point, once I got out, I had to accept that I was an alcoholic, which was not that big of a shocker for me. Um, and that is the disease of the mind, body, and soul. Um, and that means for me, my brain can't handle any types of drugs properly. I see the way people can interact with drugs and alcohol, and people can stop, and people don't think about it 24/7. For me, I will abuse them no matter what. It's not like for some people it'd be easy to say, "Oh, well, you just got to do it like this or you got to control it like that." But for me, it was never like that. When I'm using, I will have a constant craving for those drugs and alcohol. Like when I'm drinking, I just want more. When I'm smoking, I just want more. Um, and then when I'm not using, but I'm not quitting or anything, I'm I'm thinking about the next time I'm using. I'm thinking about how I'm gonna get that or how I'm gonna go to the store and pick up that or things like that. And that is not normal for normal users. Like, um, obviously, it's the obsession of the mind. So without it, it removes the obsession over time. But I was still full of fear. I mean, you're accepting a whole new life. You gotta go. It's like coming out. Like I gotta come out to my friends that most of them are partiers, I surrounded myself with people that would use just as much as me. Um, and I did lose friends during this time. Uh, but it never scared me because of the people in my life that supported me so much through these times. Like I had friends that made up for the loss of the friends that didn't stay for myself getting better. And if anything, they did me a favor and at the end of the day, I wasn't for them and they weren't for me. And that's okay. It's a weird acceptance, and you learn so much through losing people and not holding on and letting go. Um, and I am grateful for this journey that I have been on. So, where am I at now? Um, I clearly have a length of sobriety going, and it's gone great. But I wear sobriety very well. It's easy for me to mask the emotions I feel about using and if I want to use. Um, I'm able to take those thoughts, accept them, but also brush them away. um, and realize that I can name that. Like, that is my addiction speaking, like it wants me to use. And at the end of the day, I'm able to identify those thoughts and push them away. But like, obviously, there's days that that's all I can think about is how bad I could use a drink, smoke some weed, eat a Xanax. So it isn't perfect all the time. But I have tools now that when I am feeling that way, I can say it out loud. I give it less power. Um, I call someone who is also going through the same shit that I'm going through, and they just get it. Um, or I go to a meeting and I talk about it in a room full of people that also probably are feeling the same way. Um, and through that, I've found that that's the best way. Or I pray about it, or yeah, I think those are kind of the only ways that I can get through those moments. I have resentments, and people say like resentments are like the biggest thing that will get you back there. And I think I have a definition of resentments. Okay. These are my notes from rehab, by the way. I was like, might as well pull them out, give them the best stuff that I can. But a resentment describes a negative emotional reaction to being mistreated. There is no one cause of resent. There is no one cause of resentment, but most cases involve an underlying sense of being mistreated or wronged by another person. Experiencing frustration and disappointment is a normal part of life. Yeah, I definitely feel that. And comes a lot. I think anger is like the number one emotion that I feel during sobriety. I didn't feel it much when I was drinking because I just would numb, maybe I was angry. I acted angry, but I didn't feel anger. And another topic I kind of wanted to touch on is negative self-talk. Um, I feel like we all do it, maybe in different forms. We say those different things. For me, I definitely struggled with body image, and I would always be looking at myself in the mirror and being like, saying mean things to myself all the time. All these self-hatred thoughts, and they still come, trust me. They still definitely come, and they give me anxiety, but I found some things that we could talk about that might help that if you're struggling with that too. It's a good thing to like pick up on your negative self-talk habits. Like if if you like start noticing them instead of listening into them and feeding into them, just notice them. Engaging in critical self-talk is one of the best ways to change. So take a moment, name the behavior. Like whenever I get alcoholic thoughts, I'll be like, that's Mary talking. Um, or I can name like when I'm having those thoughts, I'm like, it's anxiety talking. But putting a name to it just gives it a lot less power. I'm sorry, but why am I editing and why is this giving? This is giving Cyberbully 2013. I'm sorry. It's also remembering that your thoughts and feelings aren't always reality. Um, Another tool is that we talk to ourselves in the most critical and horrible ways, but we would never talk to our friends like that. So, a reminder is to talk to yourself as you would talk to one of your best friends, because at the end of the day, like, we should be our best friend, which is hard when you're in that negative self-talk because you can be your worst critic. Another thing is when you're ruminating on something, negative self-talk is coming up, look at the big picture long term. Like, will you be upset in 5 years about this? Like, no. So it's nothing to worry about now. Next we got what keeps me going. Now, what keeps me going sober is I'm living my true authentic self. And I'm also stopping family trauma because a lot of my family members have been wiped out by the disease of alcoholism and addiction. Um, I've lost people on both sides of my families, both sets of my grandparents, or just on my dad's side. Both his mom and dad died by the age of he was like 17 of cirrhosis of the liver and suicide. So a lot of addiction issues lead to death or suicide or jail. People will be like DUI, jail, or death. Um, but helping others also keeps me going and being creative, which gets me to the next point. I hope you have stuck around. And I hope this is like I feel like I was maybe like being boring. I don't know. Like I feel like I'm not as like hello, but it's a different form. It's a different form of podcasting. So being creative. I need this like right next to me, if that's cool with y'all, because I took a bunch of notes on this. So I got a burp. Okay. So being creative, remember that being creative is relative. Like s- some have a mindset for art, whereas others creatively problem solve and variations in between. Someone could think their project is insanely creative, while another person who's creative could say that that's not creative whatsoever. I think not letting outside factors influence your work is pretty important, and just creating it to the best of your god-given ability and to be able to get it out there so other people can see it and view it and take it in, whether they view it as this is amazing or this is horrible. They everybody's going to have an opinion on it. You need to just be able to create and keep going. Like it you don't stop there at one art piece or one project that you do. Being a creative my entire life, I definitely was in school and thought of as not as intelligent. People were like my 5th grade teacher like pulled my mom aside and was like, "Your daughter, she has ADHD and she needs to be medicated." And my mom was like, "Oh shit, like you probably right." And I feel like the 9 years I was on that shit like stunted my creativity and dulled the true insides of my brain. It just made me good at tests or helped me learn um while I was learning all this bullshit stuff that I never needed to know. But um I also never wanted to like this was like more like recent. Like I felt like I couldn't call myself a creative because I was like I don't know, I thought that being creative had this like entitlement to it. Like you had to like prove yourself to be a creative. When I was creative, I mean, now I feel like I've proven myself to be creative, but looking back on it, I think that's just super dumb. Um, and we can also just get into the creative process. So, like the true scientific creative process is identify a goal or a wish, gather data, clarify the problem, generate ideas, strengthen solutions, plan for action. And I wish it was that simple. Um, but it isn't. For me, um, I will sit down with my partner or myself and I will think of every idea that comes to my mind on this subject. I will think of the dumbest ideas. I will think of the smartest ideas. I just let everything flow out of me. My favorite is when someone else who has that same idea as me, like that you just got to let everything flow out of you. That's where you get just like the greatest ideas is when you're just bouncing back and forth ideas, whether they're good, bad, silly, stupid. You're just getting them out and you're putting them on a document, and you'll know like which ones you can narrow them down probably to like 4 to 3, and you'll know because you feel it. Like you feel that one, oh, that one makes a lot of sense, or like this is it. And once you get to those 3 to 4, you begin to research those ideas, find the strengths in all of them, and from there sometimes ask someone else what they think that knows a lot about these stuff or which one to go with, and or go back to the drawing board and with your partner or by yourself look at the ideas, pick and choose which one, and narrow it down to one. And from there you begin to research and find a strategy. um but it's not that easy sometimes. Some days, especially days I've been grinding so hard on a creative project, I feel my mind will go blank. I'll just go blank. And I've worked that muscle so much that it doesn't happen all the time. But when it does, I know that I need to get outside and I need to live, or I need to do my routine really quick, go grocery shopping, um, go live, go put an outfit on, do my makeup a little different. Um, Start doing things outside your comfort zone. This could be as simple as giving a stranger a genuine smile when you would never do that. Um, it could be cooking something new, trying new spices. There's so many directions to go down. Um, I think new experiences give you new perspectives on life, and that's creative in itself. I once read a quote, and it goes by it goes by it says, if you want to be creative in life, live a life doing creative things. And that was something I really resonated with. Think outside the box, be as goofy and as weird, and you will start thinking like these crazy ideas and creative thoughts. And I don't think it's just given to you. I think definitely there's some people that just don't have it, but it begins with what's the creative way to do this? Or how can I live my life creatively today? Whether it's literally going to a grocery store and getting new ingredients, or oh, I'm gonna make this, or I'm gonna get try this new ice cream. Like that's creative. um, but yeah, that's something that keeps me going as well. I love being creative, and without creativity, I would be so boring and probably looked as insane because my idea or my head is always flying with ideas 24/7. And now I can actually do things with those ideas and make a career out of it, which I never thought I could. And that ADHD hopefully will turn into a really successful art direction career that I'm graduating from the day this drops. So that's pretty sick too. And if you voted on me talking about like sorority and colleges and stuff, I will definitely talk about that in next week's episode. Some people also wanted to hear about sex. So we will talk about that all in next week's episode. But I hope you enjoyed this time one on one. Um, I certainly did. I was really excited to just do this alone for one time and try it out and be creative by myself. And I hope it was interesting. And if you have any questions about the topic I was talking about before, or creativity, but also sobriety, and never be afraid to reach out or ask me questions. You you are not the only person that has reached out to me, and that's what I live for, is to help others that struggle with this disease. But it is 1 in the morning. I am ready to go to bed. I've been working all day. But I love you guys and thank you for watching and your support. Um, it just makes my day, and give us a thumbs up if you like this. And I will talk to you guys next week. Love you. Love you guys. Bye.